African empires and the rise of modern nation-states. Did you know that the modern borders of African nations are often directly tied to the rise and fall of ancient empires? What if the political structure of today's Africa is not just a colonial artifact, but also a reflection of ancient greatness? In this video, we unravel the legacy of powerful African empires and reveal how they laid the foundation for modern nation-states. Stay with us as we journey through time and rediscover the glory that shaped our continent. Africa is not just where humanity began. It is where some of the most sophisticated civilizations once thrived long before colonizers set foot on its shores. From the banks of the Nile to the savannas of West Africa, African empires were masters of governance, commerce, architecture, and spiritual life. In Northeast Africa, the kingdom of Aksum rose in what is now Ethiopia and Eritrea. Aksum was one of the four great world powers of its time alongside Rome, Persia, and China. It minted its own coins, built monumental obelisks, and was an early adopter of Christianity. To the west, in the vast Sahelian zone, the Ghana Empire and later the Mali and Songhai Empires commanded trade networks that stretched across the Sahara. They traded salt, gold, ivory, and enslaved people in a vast web of African and international commerce. Timbuktu, a jewel of Mali, became a center of Islamic learning and scholarship. Its libraries rivaled those of medieval Europe. These empires had intricate political systems, centralized kingship, advisory councils, taxation systems, and diplomatic strategies. African governance wasn't primitive, it was adaptable, robust, and well-structured. These were no tribal outposts, they were global players. When we examine today's African nation-states, many of their borders and ethnic compositions mirror those of earlier empires. Nigeria, for instance, contains the remnants of the Oyo Empire, the Benin Kingdom, and the Sokoto Caliphate. Ethiopia has preserved its imperial lineage through centuries of both war and diplomacy. These empires often united diverse groups under one rule. They pioneered federal-like systems to govern large territories, laying the foundation for national integration centuries before the term nation-state existed. The legacy of these empires helped form early African nationalism. Leaders like Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, and Haile Selassie drew inspiration from these historic powers. They saw post-colonial African unity not as a foreign idea, but as a return to African political tradition. What colonialism did was interrupt, not create, the African state. When Europeans carved up Africa at the Berlin Conference in 1884, they ignored centuries of African history. But after independence, many African leaders tried to reawaken the spirit of empire, of continental strength, unity, and pride. These ancient African powers were also engines of culture, technology, and trade. The Mali Empire under Mansa Musa became world famous not just for its wealth, but for its devotion to knowledge. Musa's legendary pilgrimage to Mecca shook the world economy. So much gold was given away that inflation soared in cities as far as Cairo. The great Zimbabwe civilization built stone cities with advanced engineering without mortar. Swahili city-states on the East African coast engaged in maritime trade with India, China, and Arabia long before Vasco da Gama ever arrived. Africa wasn't isolated, it was global. Its languages, crafts, architecture, and spiritual systems influenced the world. From iron smelting in Nok, Nigeria, to geometric art in Nubia, to astronomy among the Dogon people, Africa was a leader, not a follower. Today, we're seeing a renewed interest in these legacies, what scholars and leaders call the African Renaissance. This isn't nostalgia, it's a call to action. By embracing the principles of ancient governance like community consensus, decentralized power, and respect for the environment, modern African states can craft political systems that are uniquely African. Not Western imitations, but African innovations rooted in African memory. Education systems are now reviving the stories of Queen Zinga of Ndongo, Shaka Zulu, Sundiata Keita, and the Kandakes of Kush. These aren't just historical figures, they're national models. The African Renaissance challenges the myth that Africa had no history before colonization. It restores pride, sovereignty, and a vision of Africa built on its own greatness. Africa's borders may have been drawn by colonizers, but Africa's soul was shaped by its empires. The past is not just history, it is prophecy. The legacy of African empires is not buried, it lives on in the languages we speak, the values we hold, and the nations we are becoming. The rise of African nation-states isn't just a political event, it's a civilizational awakening. This is Africa by design. This is the new African story. Subscribe to Learn Africa TV, where Africa meets the world, because the past isn't over, it's just beginning.